Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Northern Power Women webinar series, Amplifying Voices. This is the second in our latest series, and I'm absolutely thrilled this week. I've got a whole hour to chat with the force of nature that is Carol Ann Whitehead. You are most welcome, Carol Ann.
Oh, let's wait till she comes in the room. Oh, you mean me? Yes.
Well, you are a force of nature. You know, you are managing director of the Zebra Partnership, which is a campaign, events and publishing agency, and it was found back in 2000. It's a boutique agency that brings together freelancers on a project-by-project basis across all sectors. And I know there is way more stories behind it. You're also a visiting lecturer, you're a mischief maker, collaborator, and the co-founder of the Black United Representation Network, and many more things. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on our chat this week.
Thank you for asking me.
And thanks to everyone for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. We've got people from Canada, we've got people from the States, we've got people from obviously all across the North and the rest of the UK all coming to have a chat with us today. If you want to ask Carol Ann any questions, please do pop them in the Q&A box, and also feel free to join in the chat as well, because we want to hear your voices. So the Zebra Partnership, as we can see behind you, it's a very distinctive name. What's the story? There's got to be a story behind that.
Always a story. So since Adam and Eve were boy and girl, I've always worn animal print. That is the thing. Absolutely adore it. Bet Lynch from Coronation Street, sorry Canadian and American people. She was
Corrie is worldwide. It's
Corrie is worldwide. Corrie is worldwide. And when we were looking to set up our own company, originally, because of the whole animal print thing, it was called Untamed Publishing, because my background is publishing newspapers, magazines, books. So we went with Untamed Publishing, but don't tell anybody. But people thought we were publishing porn. And I'm going, no, not having that. So, Untamed, you know. So, right, we'll look for something else. And of course, from that, you couldn't have, because we wanted to stick with that theme, couldn't have tiger or leopard, you know, or whatever. So, it was my husband that came up, and it's because we were a small team, a diverse team, and he came up with Zebra because it's still animal print. But of course, the way zebras behave, they work as a team. They've got their own, what they call unique fingerprint, but of course they do their own thing as well, and they have their own way of working. And I just thought that was fantastic. And a little bit of knowledge for you here, a group of zebras is called a dazzle.
That is one for all of those Zoom quizzes this weekend. Get it out there on social.
Yeah. So a group of zebras is called a dazzle, and we co-founded it, but I'm the managing director. I've got a major shareholder in it as well. But of course, as well, like I say, it's diverse. And at the time when we founded it, my husband wasn't my husband, but he is white British. I'm Black British, and then we have sort of a diverse team, and we have diverse freelancers and contacts that we work in. And the elevator pitch when we go and see people, or when I go and see people as I'm front of house, is, you know, we are the yin and yang. We work seamlessly with your organisation, and then when we've actually worked on that campaign and leave, the actual flow of your dazzle, your group of zebras, can still continue once we've left.
So is that the heart? So it's almost like it's a legacy. Everything that you do as part of it, it's all about the legacy, right?
Yeah. Leaving a footprint, yeah.
A zebra, a dazzle, a footprint.
Yeah, a dazzle footprint. Obviously from the publishing side. So let me give you a description. Think of the Olympic rings. There's 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Publishing, events, campaign, marketing and PR. And there are people who just think, oh, she's events. Yes, I'm events, but I'm a publisher. I won an award in 1998. That's way back, for publishing and publishing ideas. and increase circulation in magazines and things like that in the games industry. So that is the background. And whereas Dan, that's my other half, who is the editorial director, he's your article writer. He writes, you know, reams of things. I'm your punchy headline writer, your caption writer, your pull-out quote, your attention getter. That's what I do from the content and the editorial side.
So just before we come back to Zebra, so you were in the world of publishing in the games industry.
Yeah, so in the
journey there, how did you? That's
it's hilarious. So I used to work at the Manchester Evening newspapers, and we basically had what we call a you know, like a suggestion box, because they try and encourage you to understand the other side of the business, etc. None of them did, and you saw my cup. I love spreadsheets. When they used to circulate the information, because I was quite young then, a lot of the other people used to just not look at the information. I'd go, sales are down from women. Okay, all right, there's no money coming from the ethnic minority. There's, and from the gay pound, we're losing the gay market as well. And I'd look at those things. So I suggested a magazine. And that particular magazine was based on the template of Ms. London, which was a free magazine that used to give out at tube stations. So here in Manchester, we did Metro Girl, and the actual rate card of it was a silhouette of me. And people like Sandy Lindsay from Tangerine, that's how far back I knew her from back in those days when she used to do PR. Well, she still does PR. But yes, so I went out and I had this magazine and brought back the female market to the fold, and worked on the ethnic minority. And one of the clients there is a client with me to this day, and of course worked with the Gay Village and worked on sort of promoting that. And one of my favourite from the entertainment point of view is working with Chinatown. And there's a restaurant called the Yang Sing. And we did a campaign basically trying to get more women, female bosses inside to the restaurant. And it was, the campaign was something like, the Yang Sing is basically the place to do business for the boss and the man she's dining with.
Love it. Nice. See what you did there.
Yeah. So I was headhunted by an American publisher to launch a magazine, and I was headhunted by an organisation. You'll know the Dummies books, you know, the yellow and black books. It was that particular publisher, and the magazine was to launch a new particular console. And they said to me in the interview, so this console, it's going to be on a CD. And I'm like, well, console games are on cartridges. And I went, well, this one's on a CD. I had to sign an NDA. It's on a CD and it's going to be big. And I'm like, don't think it's going to work. But anyway, I'll give it a shot. PlayStation. What do I know? Wow. PlayStation 1. And it was awesome. It was awesome working in the games industry with the launch of stuff when the Tomb Raider guys were just sweaty boys in a basement in Derby, and going to LA, working in LA every year, and Atlanta, and Lyon, and Budapest. It was like rock and roll, Simone, rock and roll.
And were you in a massive minority at the time, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So
were you represented at all? Flying
that flag, can you imagine? So a young black girl, okay, and of course you'll zebra stripes. So well, some kind of branding somewhere. Well, there was no zebra stripes then because we started in 2000, so this was pre this. But you know, that little signature, my little signature of a bit of animal print somewhere. Yeah, for a young black girl at that time was really, really unique, extremely unique. And I'm still in contact with a lot of people today that I was involved in the games industry. So from Sony Computer Entertainment, Nintendo, sort of on a lesser extent Sega, and those kind of people. There would be some women in PR, but a lot of, in the games industry, a lot were blokes. I was on the publishing side, trying to get front cover exclusives, cover mounts, that kind of thing. And it was really unique. And I was not discriminated against. I'm going to say this now. I was not discriminated against, but I was encouraged, and I was encouraged by the managing director, who I realised, we know now probably when someone behaves in that way, they had probably Asperger's. So he was good at his spreadsheets and looking at the traction and how things work, but he'd have to go to the States to present to the big cheeses in the States, and he'd hate it and he'd be quite ill about it. So I came up with the idea, why don't I go? I said, why don't we do like a two-hander? So I do the zhuzh, you open with some of the facts, and I do the zhuzh and do the vision, and then you can close with the facts and the figures. And that's what got me forward, because I could do the job and sell the story.
And you lifted him up, right?
Yeah, yeah, and he loved it. And when he was leaving, when they were sort of changing hands and doing whatever, and he was the managing director, and they said, we need to put an acting managing director in place. And he said, I have no hesitation, Carol Ann will be the acting managing director. And I was really young, you know, and like in the division in Macclesfield, there must have been about 65 in that division for the UK, and some others dotted about as well, so about 100 in all. To be an acting managing director for what they call the leisure division for computer games magazines, and like I say, Nintendo 64, PlayStation, different PlayStation ones, and it was.
How long did you do that for, Carol Ann? How long did you do that for?
5 years.
And then did you go straight to Zebra from there, or?
I didn't. The thing is, it was. You know, when you have an epiphany, because I was paid extremely well. I had some extremely nice cars, company credit card. And I had an epiphany that there was no cause-related marketing attached to any of this. There was no kind of conscious donations for anything. It was all profit-driven, and that's not me knocking the games industry, but at that time, there just didn't seem to be anything like that. So I'd volunteer. So for myself, when I wasn't doing that, I'd volunteer with the arts organisations, because I'm a closet performer. Like places like the Green Room or the Royal Exchange or whatever, and I'd volunteer at those places. And when IDG were looking to sell the UK operation, I thought, right, well, this is the time when I'm going to do something else and do something for myself. And of course, when you're working with people, you know, people who deliver, and you think that they'd be good for the editorial, they'd be good for whatever. And we got together and had a chat about it. And my contract, once they were selling the division to a competitor down in Bournemouth, was to, because the portfolio of magazines were like my children, when they actually sold the magazines, my contract was to part-time go to Bournemouth and make sure the essence of that magazine continued the thread, because that was part of the clause of buying the magazines. And we had certain exclusives, so the pipeline ahead, it's like fashion. If it was sold in October, we knew what we were doing by the time Easter for the next Los Angeles trip, which is usually around Easter time. So I wanted to make sure that it fulfilled those categories and criteria.
And then what was the big brave step to go to be Untamed and go to Zebra? What was that big, what was your, well, you know what, I can't see any cause related campaigns. Was that what it was? What was it that?
Yeah, so it was that. And at a networking event, I met with the then owner of the Big Issue in the North. And she wanted the Big Issue magazine to increase the circulation. And one of the things I did from a publishing perspective was increase the circulation. There's always, with newsstand magazines, it's getting people to stretch, pick that magazine off the shelf and not put it back, but go to the till and buy it. So that kind of thing, I loved that, to make sure people kept hold of that magazine. So of course with the big issue it was different. You're dealing with the vendors, but also as well you're dealing with what the information is. So discussing how the magazine could appeal to people who were walking past. And I suggested doing a bit of training with some of the vendors on how they spoke to people who didn't stop and who didn't buy the magazine. So she went, oh, that's a good idea, because of course, let's face it, sometimes the vendors are not, at the time, were not very nice to people who didn't buy the magazine. So I said, all it is training and, you know, helping them sort of PR themselves and the reputation of the vendors, because at the end of the day, they need it more than you do, and to help them. And it was great to do that. And one of the first key covers we got was Bridget Jones' diary. So we got the agreement to have Bridget Jones on the front cover, because Big Issue London, the one in London, Big Issue in the North, was different from the Big Issue in the North. Big Issue in the North was different from that one. So London would get all those key exclusives, but the North didn't at the time. So to set our stall out that we were different from that one, because of course Big Issue in the North was Liverpool, Leeds, Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds, but didn't have the North East, and trying to get the North, even though it is in the North, they had the London one, which was weird. So getting those exclusives, and then I did cover mounts, and I got a load of backlash from all the vendors. Do you know how heavy these magazines are? And you're putting cover mounts on, we got to carry them. So I said, wait, I've got an idea. So September, towards the end of September, we have about 70,000 students coming into the city, into most of the city, but for Manchester. So I did a deal with Smash, you know Smash granules, cover mounted Smash, because you have hungry students that come in, and I cover mounted Smash, and the circulation just went. It's like I'm getting a magazine, I'm helping the vendors, and I'm getting a bit of food.
Smash means cash.
Means cash. Oh, I like that. Oh, I should have used that.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah. So that, doing that, had a great feeling, and it wasn't about my feeling, but it was the fact that I could see the difference. And I did that, and they built the circulation up until they sold it to the Big Live company. And then they had problems in the editorial department. I went, I think we can help you with that. So one of our longest serving clients is the Big Issue in the North, because we still, 15 years or so, write the content. And the content is the TV, the film, and the games reviews.
Wow.
And the cool thing about it is that when Dan goes to meet a particular contact or celebrity or whatever, have you ever seen Notting Hill?
Of course, yes.
Right. So you know, in Notting Hill, he goes to go and see Julia Roberts at the hotel, and he goes, "I'm from Horse and Hounds."
Yeah.
Right. And he gets pushed to the front of the queue. That's like Dan with the Big Issue in the North. They know of the Big Issue in the North, and he gets to the front of the queue. Obviously, he doesn't talk nonsense like Hugh Grant does, but he gets to the front of the queue. And then sometimes when we've got quite a few reviews to do, and I don't this is the first time I'm sharing it publicly, but sometimes I do the interviews and I do the recording. So my biggest one was Daniel Craig.
Well, how awful for you. That must be horrible.
It was terrible. I had to spend a day with Daniel Craig and eat cake. It's a girl's dream. Yeah, so sometimes I'll do the, and Miriam Margolyes, national treasure, an absolute national treasure. So yeah, sometimes I'll do the interviews.
So, I mean, it's like you're living the dream. You're living the entrepreneurial innovation dream every day, aren't you? And this is where you are now in Zebra. Now, I understand that as part of your the Zebra Partnership, you have organised not just one, but 5 royal visits to date. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's one of those things, again, you don't, because I've told you because you needed the full, but you know this anyway. But yes, 5 5 royal visits, 4 UK royals, 1 non-UK royal.
And any stories you can tell us without getting flung in the Tower of London? Come on, it's only us.
So leading up to being asked to do one of the royal visits, so the first one was the Countess of Wessex, and because I had a contract with Childline, and to this day she's still a Childline patron, and it was when we originally asked her to be a Childline patron, and we'd got this new building near the Gherkin in London, and the new building, we were so proud of it, and different floors were for different things, etc. And she was pregnant. And we said, "Mum, would you like to go, into the lift?" She said, "No, I'd like to sort of talk and walk up the stairs." And she's a very fit young lady. I thought to myself, yeah. So anyway, there was like an entourage, and we were walking up the stairs, and she went to one floor and she met people and saw how the call centre worked, etc. Then we went up to another, how the campaign worked. And then so we were going to about the 3rd floor to the fundraising. And then she had a twinge. And I saw it. And Esther saw it, because Esther Ransom was with us. Obviously, she was with us. And I'd done some close stuff with Esther. I've even backcombed Esther's hair on the roof of the CIS building, but that's another story. So Esther looked at me and I went, "Hot water towels?" Anyway, it was quite serious, because she, A, was going into labour, and B, there was afterwards we found out there was like an issue, but we had to get an ambulance, and she left Childline and straight to the hospital from Childline. I think it was the walking up the stairs that set her off into labour. Yeah, and that was 2003. And she went to hospital, and 3 days later she gave birth.
Wow. Well, at least it wasn't any earlier. That could have been.
Well, it could have been. It could have been that push. No, it could have been. And one of the other ones, I was at an event in London, so I had a contract with the Prince's Trust. I've done them all. So I had a contract with the Prince's Trust, and we were all lined up in sort of regions. So we were all lined up in regions, and I had the loudest jacket, not expensive, loudest jacket on that you could ever, and it kind of Native American type, but I just loved it. But I had like a nice black suit dress underneath and this jacket. So His Royal Highness Prince Charles, and at the time they weren't married yet, so Camilla, we were walking together, and it was one of those things, they were trying to get her into the public eye tentatively, and she came and she saw me and she stopped right in front of me, and she went, "Hello." She said, "I do love that jacket." So I said, "They've got a couple more, Mum, TK Maxx." And I went, people either side of me going, "What are you saying?"
What unsay it.
Yeah. So I said TK Maxx, and then I went, "Probably you don't even know what TK Maxx is." And she went, "I do." Like that. What's your? So she asked my name. So I told her my name, and I told her what region I was from. Didn't think anything of it. Got a message about 2 months later saying they want you to work on the royal visit to the Northwest.
Brilliant. And also to go run out to TK Maxx and get her a jacket.
TK Maxx and get her a jacket. And because I'd been working on this with the RSA, the flower show, I'd got some young offenders and some children from a school with disabilities, to actually work on a garden, a community garden at the Royal can't even say it, RSA, not RSA, the Royal Horticultural Society show. RHS, that's it. In Knutsford, and we did this, and I even partnered with Dulux to actually mix a paint that was similar to the Princess Trust Red, so that we had a garden that depicted a young person's journey. So we had a wild garden where they were all over the place, and then a wall as an obstacle, and then another wall that was painted Princess Trust Red with gaps in it so they could go through, and then it was all kind of like there's different opportunities available, and that was the depiction of the garden. So so I was supposed to be doing that royal visit, and I found out I was pregnant. So I had to delay it until I came back. They said they'd move the royal visit until I came back, and and also I was on the team to plan the Buckingham Palace garden party. So just that whole TK Maxx silly thing and the eye contact and making a smile opened up 3 royal visits with them.
But you know what? It's about being memorable, isn't it? It's about. So I know you just touched on the. I love the whole idea of this garden and mixing the paint, and to representative of young people. But
yeah,
I know this is something that you are massively passionate about. You have that pay it forward ethos. You're absolutely about lifting others up. And I know mentoring. You are a big fan, aren't you? You're a big advocate and a big fan. And so just if people on this chat today aren't a mentor, tell them, convince them why they should be. Because it could be all walks of life, can't it?
Yeah.
Someone in early careers, ex-offender. It could be someone who is coming through the COVID at the moment and just got made redundant. It could be anyone, couldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if anyone's thinking about a mentor, all right, let's just park that word to one side, because people see, sometimes it's a barrier for people. They go, oh, I'm not a mentor. Like you're supposed to get a crown and pop it on your head and you go, and I'm a mentor. That's not what it's about. Imagine growing up, you yourself personally, there are nuggets and there are different people in your life that you just go, your heart just goes, I really like them. I admire them. Whether it could have been a teacher, it could have been someone in your brownies, it could have been for you, someone in the Navy, all these different people it could have been a neighbour 2 doors down that always made scones for you or something. Anything, there's always somebody that you like the way they carried themselves, you like the way they gave you little snippets of advice. That's all it takes. That's all it takes to support and help somebody. And I didn't go at this from the mentor, I'm going to be a mentor now. No, it was kind of like, that person needs my help. That person sees me and wants to talk to me about advice. And then there's a thread. And it's, I was talking to an event contact of mine, Mandeep, he's an Essex boy. And I was talking to him and he said, why have you asked me to be on your panel? I'm asking him to be on a panel. And he said, I remember when we first met, he said, you were like this big ball of sun. I went, don't call me a ball. But he said, you were like this sun coming towards me because you were smiling because I was stood on my own in the corner. And he's an Asian guy, a handsome Asian guy with a ponytail.
I think he's watching. I think he's online.
Are you there? Are you there? Oh, I'm watching, sunshine, you see? And that was fantastic. That I felt a connection with him, and we were judging. We didn't speak, and we had to do a big picture for this campaign thing that we were doing. And I was doing rabbit ears behind him and chit-chatting. But we found it really easy to talk to each other. And it's your approach. That's what it is. It's your approach with people. And if people are comfortable with you, they'll be able to, and that you hold what they tell you in great confidence, they will share that with you. And you can walk with them and talk with them and basically take them through their journey and help them. And it's not about the good feeling for you. It's how you can see them develop and how you can see them evolve.
Yeah, and you learn as well, don't you? You always get, you know, there's always something that comes back from that mentoring relationship as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, so we talked earlier about the Sustainable Development Goals just before we came on the call, and that's something that is massively, you're an advocate for women's rights,
Huge.
equality, diversity. Tell us about your Wikieditathon. Did I say that right?
Yeah. Well done. Is the Wikieditathon is interesting. So it started with Sadiq Khan. I had a bit of a chat with Sadiq Khan, Mayor of London, online, because he went to an all-girls school, a Muslim all-girls school, and they were doing, they were talking about the lack of key Muslim women online who have done some amazing things, and how that, you know, they should be online. And I was like, that's interesting. We were talking online about stuff, and then a contact of mine who we basically talk about different things to do with the UN and different projects and stuff. Susan Dolan, so she said, this is really, really interesting. We could sort of make a difference with this. So while I was talking to Sadiq Khan, I can't remember what I said, but I remember what he said to me back. And he went, you do something about it then. Well, all right then, okay. So I had a look, and different people just intermittently were doing these Wikieditathons, uploading information online. Now the thing is, why is there an issue with Wikipedia? And I'll tell you. 90% of contributors, those are the people who put the information online, 90% are men. All right. And I want to tell, just to clear up anybody who's listening, when I start talking about this, it's not a male hating rhetoric. What this is these are the facts. 90% are men. And out of 29 million English speaking Wikipedia pages, at the time when I embarked on this, only 17% were women. And I sat back and I thought, right, okay, we need to do something about this. So Susan and I had chewed over different things, and Susan's more woman in STEM than I am, and she said, Ada Lovelace, she invented the internet, and she did. Let's pick Ada Lovelace Day. And we spoke to Zoe Philpott, and Zoe Philpott, she does the Ada Lovelace show, which is absolutely amazing. And she told us the date of Ada Lovelace Day, which is the first Tuesday in October. But I still kind of adopted 8th, 9th and 10th of October. And I said, right, okay. I'm going to go and speak to Gail Heath and Elaine de Vries at the Pankhurst Centre. So I went to speak to them about it, and they went, we're in. And if you know them, you know that's what they do. Yeah, that's great to have a hub, a home for the, because basically the birthplace of women's right at the Pankhurst Centre, that's where I'll hold the Wikieditathon. Partnered with Digital Science in London, again, another contact I made online. They hosted the web page, and then we started getting people around the world to put that date in their diary and get their own hub. So, by the time we got this all sorted, it took us 12 weeks to get it all sorted. We had about 13 to 14 different hubs. So a couple around the UK, but New Mexico, New Zealand, Wellington, New Zealand, some in quite a lot dotted around Europe. And this is the interesting thing. So certain nations whereby if you have something like that in a public place, i.e. it be in a university or a library or wherever, it's frowned upon based on their political system. So we said living room hubs. So 5 of you with your laptops round a friend's house, some food, and you discuss the Wikieditathon together and who you want to put online, that you know that you're holding that book I mean, yeah, but let's say this woman, okay? Let's just say this woman did not have a Wikipedia page, but you're holding her book. Why has she not got a Wikipedia page? Because 90% of the contributors are men, and they're not really interested in that. So we have to pick a woman that we admire, and it's a bit of investigating, getting all the information together that stack up. Not going, oh, she's lovely, her hair's gorgeous, she's great. No, the facts about what that individual has done, the references that what that individual has said, the difference that they've made, that they are notable. And that's basically the essence of Wikipedia, because sometimes you'll put things on Wikipedia and then these gatekeepers chuck it to one side, take it down, and you have to argue your case. So you have to have buns of steel to make sure this happens.
Did you go back and tell Sadiq what he'd done?
No, because he talks to lots of people. You know when like, all right, Andy Burnham knows who I am. However, somebody like Sadiq Khan, okay, he knows people for a finite amount of time, and then they're off the radar for him, and he knows somebody else. That's not a criticism. That's a fact. It's just that people just go by you, you know. And
you got recognition from the UN about this, though, didn't you?
Yeah, so yeah, because we did it with the People's Hub, because we created the People's Hub UK, because there's the People's Hub UN, and we've got the People's Hub UK. So we were given the blessing to do that, so that we could put campaigns through there, because we attached it to SDG 5. There are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable Development Goal 5 is gender equality, not just things like Wikipedia, but also things like female genital mutilation and the respect for, you know, equal pay and all the different things that happen throughout the world that affect and make women detrimental to men. So yeah, so it's sat under SDG 5, but also as well SDG 10, which is reducing inequality. And those are the two I champion, and then attached to that is 17, which is partnership working. So to give you some more figures, so, and this is not just because of us, because I'm kind of like the orator. I've done several lectures on this now at the University of Manchester and at the UN and in Denmark at the University of Aalborg with the United Nations Youth about it. And basically between 2018 and 2019, it went up 1.1% to 18, just over 18%. Doesn't sound a lot, but it's 16,000 pages. And we've done several of these Wikieditathons now. And even though we're in the pandemic, you know, and I've mentioned to Gail at the Pankhurst, Pankhurst are our partners in this. So even if we do it online, it's still going to be the Pankhurst. And what I want to do is that when you come online for the next Wikieditathon, I want a donation to go to the Pankhurst to support them and the work that they do. You know, it's not something whereby anytime I do any kind of advocacy and support for equality, diversity, inclusion, it's not my job. I don't get paid for it. It is the right thing to do, as far as I'm concerned. So the Wikieditathon is fun because we find out so many things. And what I do intermittently on LinkedIn, I go, this person did this, this, and this. This is their page. And I am subtly, not that subtle actually, because you know me, but I am trying to educate people about these fantastic women that are out there.
It is, and you know, it's all about role models. It's the importance of those role models. It's the importance of those trailblazers, and you know, and I think it's the, you know, sometimes it's like you say when someone asks you to be a mentor, it's like, oh, who, me? Oh no. Well, actually, it's really important. Everyone has to own their own inner role model. You know. I'm talking about, you know, you took action there, and you made a difference, and you've co-founded the Black United Representation Network. And again, we spoke about this earlier, you know, sort of the last seven and a half weeks, I think, since the horrific murder of George Floyd in the States has obviously brought to the centre of this pandemic. People have been absolutely focused on Black Lives Matter. Do you think that the attention has died down? Do you think as people are getting back to normal, it'll be like, oh well, what next? What next? Do you think it's gone away a little bit?
It's not at the forefront. It's not at the forefront, as in, Twitter was literally ablaze, and it was everywhere. It was everywhere. But and it's horrific, because I've seen since that there has been cartoons that they have shown on TV, basically emulating the whole knee on the neck thing, and it's just been awful. It might have died down on the forefront. However, what that has made some organisations and some networks, and I'm just talking about this country now, because I am Black British with Jamaican, Lebanese and African heritage. So this is what I'm talking about, this country. Certain organisations and certain networks have gone, wait a minute. And they've listened, and they're putting things in place. We're not having a conversation because of that. We're having a conversation because I'm in your network. That's why we're having a conversation. However, what's happened is that lots of other organisations have never considered it, and that's the key. They've never considered it, but they are having a conversation. How can we help? How can we support? And the thing is that with Burn, so last year I came up with the acronym of Burn. Marilyn is the principal founding member, just to give you sort of how it works. Marilyn Comrie, Dr. Marilyn Comrie OBE is the principal founding member of Burn, but it wasn't Burn back 2 years ago when her and we were speaking to people, saying, listen, your organisation has only 3%, BAME in it. That's not good enough. We need more counsellors. There's not one Black counsellor in Greater Manchester. Again, that's not good enough. That's where the policy's made and decision making, given the population in Greater Manchester. So we're talking about the leadership roles, and sometimes when we've been to places and people have seen us and had a conversation with us, you imagine sitting in front of Marilyn and I for a conversation, and that conversation, they've dozy-doed around the subject. They've dozy-doed and not actually taken it seriously. And we've come away and got to do something ourselves. So she did a lot of work. She wrote a paper about it. She wrote like a report about it. She did a lot of work behind the scenes, and then pulled some key individuals together to say, let's talk about this and let's do something and make something happen. So you've got NPW, you've got IOD and so on. Like, it's about time we had, and you've got the Asian network, it's about time we had something for people of African descent, the African Caribbeans. Let's do something to make that happen. And then a framework was put together, because some people think that we came together quickly as soon as the George Floyd incident happened. No, we've been experts by experience for many, many, many years, and we've had enough.
And what do you want? What's the key actions that we should all be asking people to take? Because I think companies have got to be ready, haven't they? Because we were having a chat I think I was having a chat on Twitter last week, and it was one of our young futurists. She was like, people need to stop asking me about this, that and the other unless their companies are ready to do something.
This is very true.
Yeah, it's not a cookie cutter, is it? It's not a plaster to put on anything, is it?
That's right. This is very true. And in this situation, in this interview that we're having now. I don't want for this to take over. If people want to know more, go to the Burn website, www.burncic.org. I'll have all the information there. And if you want to find out information, there is a contact us page or a get involved page. Go to that and put your information in. And it's not to do with, oh, they only want Black organisations to get involved. We have a whole range of organisations that have come to us to get involved, to have a conversation. Institute of Directors first stepped up and said, let's have a couple of conversations about race. And they did. You know, they quickly, Claire Ebury and the team quickly put together a discussion panel on race and what can happen, and had Marilyn on there, and had Sharon Amesu, who is also one of the founding members as well, but she's also Manchester chair of the IOD. And that's how they can find out.
Okay. Well, we'll put those details on the follow-up chat to this, Carol Ann. But I've got a burning question here from Jan, who wants to know when the next Wikieditathon is.
Oh, who said that?
So Jan is over at Liverpool John Moores University, and I know Jan, and Jan will want to get her students involved, won't you? Am I just?
Oh, lovely. Yeah, it's going to be in October. So that's October, the first week in October, around about the 8th or 9th, because that's the Ada Lovelace Day. We want to keep that thread to Ada Lovelace, because the key thing about Ada Lovelace is, and Jan will know this, she was written out of history. First of all, because she was so clever, they said she was bonkers. And then she was written out of history. But thank goodness she was brought back. Absolutely. So it'll be October.
So just, we talk about, we've mentioned like, you've won, you're multi-award winning, you've won on the Entrepreneur with Jacqueline Gold, regional national winners of the Forward Ladies, Mentor of the Year, obviously recognised on this year's Northern Power Women Power List as well. But who has helped you along the way? Who has, because you are absolutely somebody, I think, who goes through life with a smile, with that positive action, looking for solutions and joining dots. That's you, isn't it? That's you, but who has helped you along the way? Is there anyone sort of memorable out there? Was it that next door neighbour who made you scones? Because I really want to know them. Yeah,
I know, Alice. That's her name. Alice Horsfield, bless you. And I don't want to be a cliche, but it's true, right? So the person that's empowered me is my mum. And I'm going to tell you why it's my mum, okay? So my mum was very slim and petite, didn't get the genes. Very slim and petite, a very, very proud NHS nurse, an entrepreneurial. She's a networker, right? So she's very entrepreneurial. So when she was nursing, there were not many, she was a qualified hairdresser as well. There were not many hairdressers that could do Afro hair, but do it in that. A lot of black women, I thought at the time, wanted Elizabeth Taylor type style. If anybody knows who Elizabeth Taylor is, fantastic Hollywood actress, but they wanted that kind of style. And so she made sure that all the Caribbean and African nurses knew when she was off duty to make an appointment to come to our house to have their hair done. So the front room of our house, imagine a Victorian semi, and the front room stuck out with a bay window. And that front room wasn't our front room, it was her salon. Because she got my dad to put two sinks in, either side of the fireplace. I don't know how that worked. And she could have 4 women in there. And we didn't have a living room. Our living room was kind of like the dining room tacked onto the kitchen at the back. And she had a separate bell. And I just loved it because that was life. And these women used to come and they gossiped, which was fantastic. But there was like a sisterhood network thing about it. And so once they were sat there, and the big dryer that goes over your head, like that, so big dryer, sat there, okay? What they are is a captive audience for my mum. because my mum used to make Caribbean rum cake. So she'd like have the Caribbean rum cake and give it, everyone had a bit, and a bit of rum punch, only a little bit, because of course what she was doing was touting for business for weddings and christenings.
That is good. Entrepreneurial.
Okay,
trapped in a hairdryer.
Trapped in a hairdryer. and then when the hairdryer was often styling, okay, she'd go, Carol Ann. Right, that was my cue. I was very cute. And I still have it.
Closer. You're the deal closer.
I was the closer because I'd come in with her Avon bag. Right, and back in those days, they don't have it now. Back in those days, they had little diddy testers.
No.
Right, and sometimes I'd turn up and I looked like Coco the Clown because I'd have like really red cheeks. Yeah, this is Calypso Sunrise. This is Mediterranean Sea, whatever it is, and I'd like be telling them what the actual makeup was and everything. So 3 business in that one room.
The apple did not fall far from the tree.
No, Simone. As my mum would say, the mango didn't fall far from the tree.
Oh, no, listen, in March this year, do you remember March when we were all outside and all that kind of stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. I worked on the Walk for Women.
Oh my God, yeah.
3,000 women we had. Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it?
Because I'm on the steering group for it.
You posted on Twitter, you can only become truly accomplished at
something you love. Don't make money your goal. Instead, pursue the things you love doing and do them so well that people can't take their eyes off you.
There's a book in that. I can feel it.
Maya Angelou said that. It's my favourite quote.
But that is how you live your life.
Yeah. And the thing is that I'm not saying I don't want to get paid for stuff, because people do take advantage. Mm-hmm. But it is about how comfortable in the soul, comfortable up here as well, but also as well making a difference to somebody else, so that they can take that baton and pass it on.
Yeah, I think that paying it forward, pass it on is just, and I think it's that generosity as well, isn't it? It's sometimes the most important thing that you can give is time to people. So what is, as we kind of come into, because I can't believe there's no questions, they're all enthralled with your stories. What's next for you? Do you have this has been obviously a challenging time for so many, but have there more opportunities come out of this for you? Who else have you helped along the way during this?
Well, it's very strange, because like I say, some people know me for events, other people know me for publishing, other people just know me, it's that zebra woman who talks all the time about gender equality, race equality, and belonging. I always talk about belonging as well. So remember the Olympic rings I said at the beginning? One of those Olympic rings has fallen a bit, which is the events, because events for me is just something I absolutely love. Right? If I gave you a box of chocolates now, what would be your favourite? It's a dairy milk. There you go. What would be your favourite?
It's got to be the hazelnut in the middle.
Hazelnut?
Yeah.
Yeah. Coffee cream. Yes. Right. Events to me is my coffee cream. It's the one I always choose. Of the things I do, I'll always choose events. Why? Because there's a beginning, middle and an end, and it brings people together. Even if it's a conference about a very testing subject, there are actions, there is an objective and actions towards the end. And so events really, really suffered. But what's happened is that some people who remember that I can consult on particular report. So I'm consulting on a key report at the moment, and actually consulting on the event that will happen at the end of August, which is connected to Department of Communities and Local Government. And so I'm doing that at the moment. I'm also looking at upscaling my collaboration with Lloyds Bank. So I host events with Lloyds Bank. I love the team there. I love Holly and Katie and Simon, the team at Lloyds Bank. And I love hosting the Women Like Us. We've created a Women Like Us network. So I'm looking to upscale that as well. But also as well, really looking forward to the International Trade Summit, which was supposed to happen it's African Trade Summit. It's supposed to be happening in October, but it's going to happen in 2021. And that is really exciting. Sort of looking at the 54 countries in the continent of Africa, working with some of them, trying to see if we can get them all here to Manchester. Because 70 years ago, the Pan-African Trade Summit happened in Manchester. And what that did was stem some key people that went back to their own countries and helped build their own countries. And now their offspring and grandson or whatever, some of them are in power now. And it's good to be working with them to actually put together this summit. And it's exciting to be working on.
It's like a full circle, isn't it? It's like a full circle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a full circle. So, you know, I'd like it to be. So one of the things, let me ask you, do you think we'd have some physical events by March next year?
Yeah.
I'd hope so. I'd really hope so.
But I think it's risk assess as we go, isn't it? I've got a question here. I've got just before we wrap up, and then just I'm conscious it sort of ties in with this, but what do you think is the best way to grow your network and meet like-minded people in this online world? Because events to you and I, it's like oxygen, isn't it? Bringing together. So how one top tip for a seer?
Right, to grow your network is find out what you're interested in and to connect with like-minded people. Now the good thing about these online events is there is more effort to sell the online event, so therefore the description about the event gives you an idea of who will be on it. And if the event is done properly, there'll be an opportunity to connect and network.
Using the chat, I think, is always good as well, isn't it?
Using the chat is really good. So for example, I'm part of the Alliance Manchester Business School Network, Women Leading in Business. And that has swelled like you would not believe. And bearing in mind, we started the WLIB in January, and then all of a sudden lockdown 2 months later, and it's a monthly thing. And that has really swollen. And why it's really swollen is because it's a business breakfast, there's a main speaker, there's a description, but then there's threading and breaking out and then coming back into the main room. And I've observed so many different collaborations and connections. And if that person isn't the person that you need, they suggest another person. And that's the key, the willingness to share. Yeah.
And to be curious as well, isn't it? So,
yes.
You know, listen, thank you so much.
Are we finished?
It's 3 o'clock.
Oh, shush. No one asking me a question.
No, normally I would put them in live, but literally people have been just listening in.
Oh, Rena's just said WLIB has been fantastic on so many levels.
Janice said you've learned so much, got great actions to take away. You were great. Thanks a million. So thank you so much. We'll keep the conversation going. Join the conversation on Twitter at North Power Women, and your Twitter handle at
@zebra_Carol or at the Zebra Partner, but at @zebra_Carol.
And finally, from Jacqueline, when will you have your own one-woman show?
I bet you that's Jacqueline Winstanley.
Yes, it is.
Do you know what she's fab, her, by the way. Yeah, Jacqueline Winstanley. I will have my own because I was going to say, oh, I've always gone, oh, I'm the Mancunian Oprah. I'm not. I'm Carol Ann Whitehead.
You're Carol Ann. You're especially Carol Ann.
Yeah.
And on behalf of everyone who's joined in the chat today and everyone who will rewatch again, will be put out there on YouTube, please do say thank you so much to Carol Ann, especially Carol Ann. Thank you so much. Really want to pick up offline about some more of the royal gossip because I know it's going to be there. But thank you for just being especially you. It's been brilliant to hear you and look forward to seeing you soon. Please, everybody, stay safe, stay well, and please stay connected. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.